Hello, I want to get the splits this year. Problem is, I have been saying that every year since I was about 8 years old. I have tried again, and I have failed every time. I have watched countless videos over the years. I have tried different stretch routines, and every time the same thing happens. After about a week or two into the routine, I get bored of seeing no results and I simply find something more interesting to do. Hence, 25 years old, still no split. So it's a new year, time to start where I left off.
So I want to go pretty in depth with this, so I'm going to start out with some backstory. Over the past 2 years, I have been getting into fitness and working out, which gives a really good opportunity to train for the splits. This is because when your muscles are warm and limbered up, you can often stretch a little further and there's less risk of injury or pulling a muscle. It also helps with muscle soreness the next day after a workout. Over the years, I would train my splits on and off after exercising, but never really gave it the attention and focus needed to become a consistent routine. Now, last year was the first time I actually gave a really good go at getting the splits. After watching a lot of videos, I started watching this guy called Jujimufu, and it seemed that his main method to getting his splits, in a nutshell, was to hold the splits for a really long time on a daily basis with little breaks in between to walk around, and he kept at it relentlessly until he got the split. So inspired by this, I created a new routine after my daily home workout. This was during the lockdown, where I would stretch each leg for around 20 minutes each with little breaks in between. That was a 40-minute stretch routine. I'd also put weights by my back leg to keep it straight. Often the back leg can go at an angle or your foot can turn out slightly, which is not the proper form and posture for a front split. My aim was to train my splits about 3 to 4 days a week. The pain was nauseating, it was very boring. I saw a little bit of progress, but I seemed to reach a plateau that I could just not get past. I also watched Jules' video where she documents her journey. I found her video the most motivating because I felt our flexibility level was kind of the same, and it took her about 4 months to get the splits, which helped me accept the fact that it was just going to take longer than I had anticipated, and I was going to stick to it for however long it took. But the problem with this routine was it was too long to do on a daily basis for me personally. After about 2 weeks, I could not find the motivation to stretch for 40 minutes a day. I would skip days, forget, then the routine slowly fizzled out. But I still maintained a bit of consistency with a shorter stretch routine at the end of every gym session. So about 3 days a week, I'd stretch for about 20 minutes total after my workouts. I'd hold my split on each leg, and I kept this up with varying degrees of consistency for a few months. Unfortunately, as life goes, a lot of things in my personal life happened that year, so my fitness and stretching routines would dip in and out of consistency. But after one consistent streak in July, I managed to slightly touch the ground with my left calf for the first time ever, which I was really happy about, and I managed to reach my deepest split so far. From here, more life stuff, lost my progress, picked it up again a few months later, got to the same point as before, then lost it again when I went traveling. So this was the entire year of stretching. I may have missed a couple days on here, but you get the gist of it. Although I was fairly consistent, I never actually stretched more than 3 days in a row, and I never kept up consistency past the 2-week mark. Natacha made a great video where she looks at some studies. They show that those that stretched 5, 6, and 7 days per week showed more progress in range of motion compared to those who only stretched 2 or 3 times a week. It also suggests that 5 days a week is the minimum amount in order to see significant progress. So that explains why I wasn't seeing much progress last year. But how long should we be stretching for? According to the studies in Natacha's video, the optimum amount of time to stretch is 5 to 10 minutes per muscle per week. Those that stretched under 5 minutes showed significantly less progress, and those who stretched over 10 minutes surprisingly didn't even see as much progress as those who stretched between 5 and 10 minutes. So maybe my 40-minute stretch routine really wasn't an effective use of my time, but the long stretch sessions seemed to work for Jujimufu, and perhaps they can still work for others too. She also talks about intensity, where it's concluded that there was not a whole lot of difference between those that pushed until it was very painful and those that stretched at a lower intensity. Then there's the whole thing about forcing the splits, which is sadly still a thing in some cultures. Listen, I don't care what people say, just don't do it. It's horrible and dangerous. It is perfectly doable to get your splits gently and over time, which I believe is the best and safest way. There are also a few other factors and methods to getting more progress with your splits, which I'll be talking about throughout the series.
So, I've decided that the fastest and most effective way to do this is to do a 30-day splits challenge with no exceptions. I have tried things like this before, always failed after about 2 weeks. So I'm going to show you the routine that I'm going to do every day.
This routine encompasses most of the information I've learned over the years about splits training. I'd start with a series of 1-minute stretches, focusing on one side of my split at a time. Bear in mind, I don't know the exact technical names, but you get the idea. I'd start with stretching both my legs like this. I'd then go into a lunge to stretch under my front thigh and my back hip flexor. Then the pigeon stretch to help stretch this part, and I'd sometimes pull my back leg in to get more of a stretch on my hip flexors. I'd then stretch the front leg, hamstrings and calf muscles, which can be done in different variations. Then I'd finish with holding the split for 3 minutes, and I'd repeat the whole process on the other leg. Holding the split is the most painful part, so support is definitely needed. My favorite was this green handle thing to lean on and a soft ball underneath my thigh to support my weight. This also helped me to sit upright and eased the pressure off my legs and knees. You can also use blocks or cushions, which I used last year, or whatever is available to lean on. This entire routine takes just under 15 minutes total, which is a very doable amount to do each day. 5 days a week. This allowed 2 rest days a week whilst still reaching the optimal stretching time according to the studies.
So that's the routine. I start today. Click here to see what happens.